I've talked a lot, I've said the word advocacy a lot, I've said advocate, so let's delve into what it should look like, what those positive experiences can look like, good working IEP teams, what that looks like. So how to advocate for your child. It's very important that you are the advocate for your child until they can advocate for themselves. So you are the voice for the voiceless. They don't understand what they need. So this keeps popping out. I think this keeps coming in and out. Okay. So they don't know what they need yet. They don't even know what to ask for yet. So you guys are the ones that need to do that. There's another one over there. Oops. All right. Thank you. Welcome. That one probably needs charged. It's the one I've used all day.
Yeah. Batteries. We put them at the beginning.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully that feedback doesn't continue. All right. What's wrong with this one? Okay. Are you messing with the things back there? Yeah, that sounds better. Is that all right? It's not squeaking, right? All right, so how to advocate for your child. So this is a meme that I found a few years back, and it really is a good meme. I had to star out the word there, but I think you guys can fill in the blank. Dear IEP team members, the other word for pain in the blank parent is advocate. And sometimes, oftentimes, that is how we are perceived. So let's talk today on how we can change that. And instead of being a pain in the rear end, we actually become a good participating team player. So to advocate is to succeed. Our children need our strength and guidance in order to succeed in the district. Those parents that are more involved and less argumentative do very well for their children. If you go in understanding this information and this principle at the beginning, you will find that your meetings aren't stressful, they're easy, they're more accommodating. You will have parents that go in with both guns blazing or bull in a china shop. They're gonna get what they want. And you know what? They might get what they want. But anytime after that they have to have something else, they're gonna have to work so hard for it because they're that parent that nobody wants to work with. There are professionals out there that are like that also. So I'm gonna give you guys some tips and guidance on how to handle both of those situations. Do we have anyone in the room that's a crier? That they cry? Yeah, all the moms' hands go up. In our relationship, it's my husband. He's very emotional. I know, I laugh at him too, you know, it's just what it is. But, so he gets very emotional. He used to get very emotional. These IEP meetings do get a lot easier. Having two people at a meeting is imperative. If you can't, if one of the parents cannot attend, bring someone else with you. Because if you lose your space and you start to sob, no one's comfortable in that situation. You need someone there that's gonna ask for a break, okay? It's not easy for teachers to see that, and it's not easy for us to try and not feel embarrassed the next time we see them if those things happen. So knowing and understanding enough of the law, which we went over this morning, continue to educate yourself on that. Continue to find out information. I do full day seminars. I've got them coming up in Wooddale on a Tuesday and a Saturday in August, I believe. It might be October. It's in the fall. If you request to be on the ISD outreach mailing list, you will get the information on that. It's a full 6 to 8 hour day where you will learn more than what we've learned today. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can reach out to me and I'll give you the information. Remember, your child has the right to a free, appropriate public education that's designed to meet their unique needs. If it was an education plan that was for all deaf and hard of hearing children, the individual part would not be included, okay? So we need to look at the individual needs of your child. So let's talk about these people, right? The parents. Did any of you write in your diary, "Dear diary, I would love to have a deaf child. Please send me one"?
I really did.
You did? Okay. You're different. You're different. But
I actually looked into adoption specifically.
oh, for a deaf. Okay, so that's different. That's different. But we typically are very confused. We're typically lost. We're in a land that we've never been in before. So it makes it harder for us. It doesn't mean that they're not going to accomplish all the things that we dream of them to accomplish. They will. It's just going to be a little different than we expected. So, how does advocating make you feel? Anyone had to stand up and say something about their child? Were you comfortable with it? Can all of you come up here and talk to everybody and stand in front with a mic on? Some people can and some people can't, right? I typically always think of that initial IEP meeting, the first time you're going to meet your school district, as a job interview. You're nervous. You don't know what to expect. There's going to be people that you're meeting for the first time. So it's an unknown. You really don't know what's going to happen. So with that, we're thinking about a job interview. I always say to go to those meetings like you're going to a job interview. Would you go in your... It's risky asking you. Would you go in your yoga clothing to get a new job?
Depends on the
Ripped
job.
up.
I worked at
Okay.
the gym.
So
my
a
gym
business.
interview, I did.
I'm not asking her anymore. But if you were going to work up for a business, would you go in your gym clothes?
No.
Right. A lot of times what happens is families are unaware of their legal rights to be at that table. They think that the IEP team or the IET meeting is because they're going to tell us what they're going to do. So the parent just shows up like it's, oh, okay, what are you going to do? They don't know that they have a legal place at that table. Good districts will educate families and let them know that they do. But oftentimes they'll just walk in, okay, what are you going to do for my child? And they're ready to go. They're not there with a spouse. They don't know that they are going to share any information. It makes it difficult. So understanding all of that, all of those principles before we enter the room for the first time makes it easier. Learning the rules of the game. So when you begin to advocate, you're going to feel anxious and nervous. You don't know everything. And if you go in thinking that you know everything, I guarantee you don't. We'll talk about different personality types, and knowing what your personality type is important, because you don't want to rub anybody the wrong way in those meetings either. What you want to do is go in there ready to play as a team member. Ready to even state, hey, I want to actively be involved in my child's education. I want you guys to tell me and help me so that I am doing that with all of you. It makes a good team approach. So we want what is best for our kids, right? What does IDEA provide our children? Do they provide them with the best or the most appropriate? Okay, most appropriate. But what do we want as parents?
The best.
The best. So it used to be never use the word best in your meeting. It could put a pause because that's not what they give. The reality is we've become more educated and we understand that parents do want what is best for their kid. Just remember that best is not the golden glove, it's just the glove. If you want to give them a golden glove, how do you do that? On your own. Additional therapy, more working at home with your kiddo, whatever it might be. So just remember that. When you're dealing with anyone from the school, you want to understand what they're looking for, who's looking for it, and who is that person in regards to your child's team, why they're asking you for the information they're asking you for, when, where, how. Remember in 6th and 7th grade, we all learned how to write essays and we had to do all of this, right? We had to understand and fully implement what we were talking about within that essay, right? Think of that with these guys, because sometimes there's a reason behind the question that they're asking. If you don't understand why they're asking, ask them. Why is it that you need this information? Can you help me understand, what are we trying to gain? What are we trying to accomplish here? And there's a way to do that without being defensive. Like, why do I have to give you that information? I don't want to share that information, because then what does that put the other person on defense, right? We want to try not to do that. This was Pete Wright, who wrote the From Emotions to Advocacy book, quoted this: if your child does not receive an appropriate education and master the skills necessary to be an independent, self-sufficient member of the community, you will deal with the outcome. So I found a really cute meme. Have people watched Seinfeld before? All right, good. Maybe this will become like a cool thing, living with your parents. Because that's what it means when you will deal with the consequences. Every child will be able to be independent, will be able to go to school, will be able to do something on their own after high school. If you hold them back, they'll be with you forever, and maybe it will become popular, but I doubt it. But you will deal with the consequences. The more you let them explore, the more you let them do, the better off their life is going to be. So what is the role of the parent? To plan for your child's educational future, to advocate for their child's educational future, to manage their current education, and to maintain contact with their child's teacher and support educators. So especially in those early years, it is very important to maintain contact. As they get older and they have 6 and 7 teachers in a day, you'll have one main point of contact. It's not like you can never, ever contact the school. You can, but you're not going to talk to each individual teacher unless there's a specific issue. So how you see yourself matters. If you go in there with confidence, understanding that you have a legal right to be sitting at that table and to be giving feedback and coming up with a plan together, the better off you will be. Okay, so look at this little kitten. Looking in that mirror has a very strong self-actualization, self-realization of who they are. They're comfortable and confident, and they're going to go forth and they're going to get what their child needs. But they're not going to go in growling like a lion, right? They're going to go in very, very soft. So knowing the rules of the game. Women, anybody been to a concert? You wait in line for an hour, and you get in your bathroom, and there's no toilet paper. Anybody ever experienced that, or is it just me? Right? So this is being prepared. I know you guys would like that. You're on time for your meetings. There is no legal verbiage that says anything about how long a meeting has to be. But I guarantee that the school district has given you a 1-hour time slot, and chances are they had somebody right before you, and they will have somebody right after you. It's easier for them to put them in a row and have a bunch in one day. I always consider your actual IEP meeting, when possible, as just buttoning everything up, finalizing everything. There should be no new information being shared at that meeting that someone doesn't know about already. All of it should have already been discussed in some manner. You don't want to go to that meeting and say, oh, by the way, there's this private place I want to send my child. You want to make sure that you've already discussed that with the district, you've asked them to go look at it, so you guys are ready to talk about it, okay? You're prepared for your meetings. You should have a written document in front of you of the things that you want to accomplish in that meeting. Have it written down and make sure that you go through each and every one of them. What will happen sometimes is they go to their number 1 and they succeed, and they're throwing a happy party dance and they forget about the other 4 things that they want to accomplish. Make sure that you as a parent have your list of items. Be willing to share it with the family or with the rest of the team if you want to. Here are our family questions or concerns, and then make sure that they're addressed. Sometimes you'll be in your meeting and the answer is avoided. You keep asking and you're not getting the answer. Don't continue to ask. Apparently the person that can answer that question is not at your meeting. So you're going to have to find out who that person is and get them at the next meeting. Okay? You present all concerns and problems in writing. If it is not written down, it was never said. So if you have a verbal communication with someone at the school, go home and follow it up with an email. Just so we're clear, I wanted to make sure that what I understood was this. And then the teacher will either respond saying, yep, you got it, that's exactly what I meant, or well, really, this is what I meant, and they can clarify it. Okay? If you go into a court of law and you say, well, they verbally told me, doesn't matter. It won't hold up. Somebody told me they went through mediation. Are they in here? Oh, there you are. So they went through mediation. It was very imperative that she start writing everything down at that point because there was no connection being made. And in order for her to get what she needed, if mediation doesn't work, all of your stuff are going to be subpoenaed for due process. So having things written down just helps to support your case. You keep an open mind and you'll learn from your experiences. Sometimes your district can push out something that you think would never work in a million years, but if you're just a little easygoing and you say, you know what, I'm willing to try it, can we try it for a few months and then check back? You may find that that plan actually works very, very well, okay? So you are everything to your child right now, right? When you come back after being gone for a couple of hours, they love you more than anyone else, right? Maybe your animals too. My dog goes completely crazy when I come home. The kids don't even come around the corner because, you know, they're teenagers. But how you react and how you act is very important with our kids. Have you ever looked in the mirror and said, oh my gosh, there is my mom or there is my dad? We are the product of our environment. We are who our parents raise us to be. If you are a yeller and a screamer, I guarantee your child will be a yeller and a screamer too. They see and they do what they grow up with. So that's the way it is. I mean, we can't change that. What we can do, however, is try to keep any negative information about the school or about our child for when they're in bed. And then we talk to our spouse or other people in the family about it so that they don't always have to hear about it, because our children end up thinking, wow, everybody's mad and it's all because of me. So try and remember that. And sometimes it's hard. And then when your kids are in school, if you don't like the teacher that they're with, don't tell them, because that teacher will find out very quickly that you don't like them. So it's really important that we have to be the adults in the situation, and sometimes it's hard because we're angry and our emotions can control our reactions, but it's important that we keep that stuff away from the children as much as we can, especially when it comes to their education planning. Keeping written records, like I said, if it was not written down, it never happened. They're going to support testimony. If ever you have to go to due process, and I hope that none of you ever have to, but if you do, they are going to subpoena everything. So write down things as they occur. If anybody asks you to sign anything or asks for a copy of something of yours, make sure you get your original back. If you sign anything, make sure you get copies of it. In this day and age, there is no reason why you should leave your IEP meeting without a document in your hand. It doesn't have to be the final, but you should be getting something in your hand to review. Everything is computerized now, yes.
Now, what if you appear by phone? How long do they have to get those copies to you?
If you do what by phone?
Appear by phone.
Oh, if you appear by phone, I mean, they should be able to email you the same day.
Email it?
Yeah, everything is written and done at that meeting, so they should be able to get it to you that day. Do yourself a favor when you get the documents back, even if you got everything you wanted, read through it. I will tell you, I do this for a living, and when my daughter was going into 5th grade, we added her ADHD. So we had to open up a domain meeting to do that. We did the domains, we did find that it was educationally impactful, so therefore she did qualify. So the next year we go to transition her to middle school to come to find out that that domain was never added to her IEP because we never read it. So read it, make sure that everything's there. Go through the notes section of it, which is typically the last page, and make sure that everything's accurate. If someone was excused from the meeting, you have to excuse them, by the way. If someone is excused, make sure that that is written that they were excused. Yes?
We just had our IEP meeting, and on the section that you showed up there with the FM system, the box was checked no by accident. It was checked no. There was the explanation that she needs an FM system.
Right.
But if you're just going by those yes, no boxes, it was accidentally marked no. So
Right.
it's really important to review your papers.
Right, so in the linguistics and cultural section where you have to, if your child is deaf or hard of hearing, you have to press check yes, they checked no. They did fill out the rest of it, so they meant to check yes, but it's imperative that you go through it. Otherwise, you know what we had to do in 6th grade? We had to start the domain process over again. And that is a longer, tedious process. So make sure you read your documents. So keeping records. there's lots of reasons why you keep records. I'm sure all of you with little kids, you have all your medical records, your audiograms, all of your speech and language reports, all of those, keep those. And what you want to do is have a binder. And in that binder, you keep the most current of everything. So your most current audiogram, your most current medical exam, all of those things. Bring that to your IEP meeting, because oftentimes your district did not receive a copy of the audiogram or something. Boom, you got it done. They're going to make a photocopy of it. They've got it. It's not something that you have to come back to later. Okay? Your binder should be current. It should have your most recent IFSP or your IEP and every most recent report or evaluation should be there. Yes? Oh yeah, how important is it to hang on? Is it the 7-year tax rule? I don't know. It's up to you. We still have everything. You know what you do? You do what our parents did to us. When they buy their first place, you just take it all over there and you give it to them.
Well, I do have to say, one of his accountants at his school told me, she said, why don't you just scan it and put it in the files? I said, do you know how long it's going to take me?
Yeah.
Mounds and mounds of people.
Yeah, so she's saying, why don't you just scan it and put it on your computer, because she has mounds and mounds. So you can just start that now.
Okay.
You know, because all the old stuff isn't really relevant anymore. Is there anybody else that does that that does it for a fee? I'm sure you could find somebody.
Or you could, a high schooler.
The high schooler, yeah, higher. Right. Yeah. So when you're first getting acquainted with the school, have a contact log of who is who that's calling you. Understand who the people are, what their names are, what their position is. Then when you get your initial invitation to the IEP meeting, you'll have all the names of the people that should be in attendance. Write those down, get an idea of who they are as well. And then anytime they contact you, you would put information under their contact tab or whatever. We did all of our contact log by Excel spreadsheet. You can write it, you can use a calendar, a log book, it doesn't matter. Just keep all of that information current and in something. Telephone calls. Does anyone have a phone today that does not have caller ID? Do they even exist? I don't think they do. So we all have caller ID. You will begin to know the area code and prefix of your school. If you are having some difficulties with your school, do yourself a favor and let the call go to voicemail. Because what's happening usually at home, maybe you have a younger child or your child's screaming in the background, or you've just come in and you're trying to get the groceries put away, you're not mentally prepared for that phone call. They are not going to call and say, hi, it's Betty from the school, give me a call back. They're going to leave what they're looking for. They don't have time to do the generic voicemail. They're either going to hang up and not leave a voicemail, which is good because then they'll call later, or they're going to leave what they're looking for. Just gives you time to be prepared. If your children are in school and everything is fine, answer it, because it's probably the nurse's office calling, like they did for my 11-year-old who broke his nose. So, yes. So do answer it. Let's talk about the school's position. Now, the information that I got on this was all published in the Rights Law books, and it was surveys that they had given to principals and districts throughout the United States. Public schools offer a standardized curriculum that all children are expected to learn. School districts have a chain of command, and more frequently than not, the person in authority to make decisions on resources or money is not even at your meeting. Power flows from the top. Teachers and parents do not have authority to make decisions that involve a commitment of resources. They do, however, have the legal right to make recommendations. Typically, it is these invisible team members that make the decisions. So that is why I say, if you are asking for something that is out of the ordinary, that caused a pause when you asked about it, make sure that someone is there from the district office that can make decisions that are not typical. It could be as simple as an FM system that a district's never used before, and they know nothing about it. Make sure that someone is there that can make the decision that, yes, your child will get that. Yes?
Is that something that you would know ahead of, is that information you can find out ahead of time?
Is there information you could find out ahead of time about the district? You're just going to get to know, you're going to get to know the person that you are dealing with, And you're going to already talk. Remember I said your IEP meeting should be buttoning it all down? You're going to say, so I went to a training and I heard that these FM systems do X, Y, and Z. You know, what is the district's take on that? So you're going to have a general idea. Usually, although FM systems can be an area of problem, they're not usually. They're not usually. They know that the kids get benefit from it. It makes their life easier as well as the child. I was also talking, and this is off topic for a second, but someone said that their district has sound fields. Those sound fields are not the same as an FM. Those are for hearing kids. They're beautiful things. Your child, if they are an oral child, still needs an FM system. Or a Roger system, which is the same concept, but it does not work off of FM rays. Gamma rays or whatever they're called. So know that. Those sound fields, when they say, oh, all of our classrooms are equipped with sound fields, it's not the same thing. And if you have questions about that, you can ask an audiologist. They should be able to explain the differences between those two. These are the reasons we can't make exceptions. One size fits all. All of your children, oh, all of our deaf, hard of hearing children, this is where they go. What have they missed if they say that? What part of the IEP? The individualized part, correct. Individualized programs. We have to remember that that's what we need. Here, this is part of that survey was the reasonings why schools say no. And here are your top 10. They don't want to change. They believe their program is good enough. They do not want to make exceptions. They definitely are afraid of setting a precedence because if they do it for you, they're going to have to do it for everybody else. They don't have a program. Those of you who, anybody lives south of 70? Okay. Because south of 70, they don't have programs. They're hard to find. One deaf, hard of hearing kid is here. 300 miles away is the next closest one. It's really hard to have programs. Doesn't mean that they don't have to provide it. They do, but they have to be really unique. They're committed to their one-size-fits-all, and bigger school districts have several one-size-fits-alls. We have 5 to choose from. We're still not looking at the individual component if we are only considering those 5 places. We could consider them, and one is probably the right place, but know that that's what they do. Believes the services to be too expensive. If ever money is brought up in your IEP meeting, I would just gently say, you know what? I have to balance my checkbook every month too. I get it. But right now, I think we really need to focus on the needs of my child. You're not there to talk about their budgetary constraints. It's not your concern. They're overwhelmed by the child's needs. Those with multi-disabilities, this can happen. They are going to be overwhelmed. So they are going to rely on you as a parent to provide as much information as possible so you can make that overwhelmed feeling a little bit less. They don't understand the legal requirements. This course that I am teaching you right now is not a course that special educators have to take in college. It's not required. So if their school does an in-service day and they invite someone like me to come, then those teachers have learned that. But I have been to 5 co-ops in the state. There are way, 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 way more than that. So know that they don't have the training. Chances are you may know more than several of the people sitting at that table what the legal requirements are. Staff is not trained to meet your child's needs. I have some great stories about this. They didn't have someone they didn't have an ASL interpreter, so they just had this girl who's learning sign language through signing time videos. Okay, that is not okay. Or they're just having a teacher, she knows enough sign. It's not okay. They need a licensed interpreter. And they don't have the staff to meet their needs. If they don't have the staff, they need to find the staff, or they need to borrow from other districts. Sometimes that's all it takes. Maybe the other district has a full-time person who could do that could come over as an itinerant. There's ways to do it. So let's talk about when everything isn't perfect. It's important that you pick your battles. What is he going to do? What's going to happen? Right? Pick your battles. Go into your meeting knowing what you are willing to leave without. Go in asking for the moon and the stars, but know what you are not going to walk out of that room with. And be willing to say, we have to reconvene. we're not coming to a decision. We need to reconvene. Someone needs to explain to me and help me understand why we're not coming to the same conclusion. Learning to be effective. Controlling your emotions. Like, look at Ugly Cry Guy, right? That's uncomfortable for anybody in a meeting. And that lady looks like she's talking to her 10-year-old, right? But this happens every day in meetings. People misbehave like you wouldn't believe. Who is it hurting in the end?
Child.
The child. You've got to go in there acting like a grown-up. It's hard because what do we think with? Do we think with this or with this? We're thinking with this. This is our blood, our sweat, our tears. This is our pride and joy. And we feel like if we don't get what they need, we're failing them. Where the educator, oftentimes, you're just another folder. You're the second folder of the 5 they're going to go through that day. Remember I talked about that binder with your information in it? Put a picture of your child in there. We learned that our special ed coordinator, who happened to be at our initial meeting, had a prima ballerina in the New York City Ballet. So we went to Target and we bought some ballet clothes and we put Samantha in these ballet clothes and we took a picture of her. 10 years later, I am on the Commission for Naperville Residents with Disabilities with this special ed director. And we're chatting and she goes, you know that picture of your daughter? I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you know, in that initial meeting, you had the picture of her in the ballet stuff? I'm like, yeah. She goes, I knew what you were doing. I said, really? Because you didn't even flinch. Your face didn't change nothing. She goes, it worked. But I knew what you were doing, you know? So stuff like that doesn't hurt. Finding out. I can guarantee if you know you're the special ed coordinator of your district and you Google search them, there's information out there. They have a LinkedIn. You're going to find information about where they went to college and all of a sudden, hey, that's where I got my master's degree, even though you didn't. But there's a connection you can make, okay? Be willing to work together and be willing to state just that. I'm so happy that my child has all of you on this team. You have been gracious and accepting of me, and I must say that I feel very, very involved. When you leave the meeting, send a thank you email. Teachers, I have 2 teachers in here. You don't get thank yous from every single student, but when you get a thank you, how does that feel?
I saved mine.
So do I. So do I. Yep, every so often I'll get an actual thank you letter for helping a family. I don't expect them. I love what I do. I don't need them, but darn does it make me feel good. If you make that teacher feel good, they're going to remember you. And when you ask for something down the road, they're going to be more apt to fight with you for it. Okay? Understanding your personality. Do you guys understand? Do you know who you are? Are there any conflict avoiders in the room? See, I was expecting everybody to say, no, I wouldn't, I'm not gonna. Yes, conflict avoiders are very prevalent in our society. It's easier to say nothing than to say something because sometimes it's really hard, it's uncomfortable. Yep, there are. Any pit bulls or bullies? Know-it-alls, experts? You know it all? Yep. We can tend to have these. If we know who we are, we can remember there's certain things at that meeting you can be a know-it-all about, and certain things you can't. Don't tell somebody else how to do their job. There are going to be members throughout your child's school career that you will not like. They're not going to change staff for you. I can tell you that right now. So you just put up with that person. We were very concerned about my daughter socially. She would get out of, we have a drop-off line at our school. She would get out of the car and there would be 3 or 4 of her peers. They would say, hey, Samantha, and she would just keep walking. We were concerned about her socially. We felt that she was just being very independent still. She was old enough that the parallel play was done. So we had the social worker of our school, you know, do an assessment on her and see what's going on. And they're like, she is totally fine. I'm like, okay, define fine. Well, you should see her on those monkey bars. I'm like, yeah, she's good, yeah. So were there any kids talking to her? No, but man, they were watching her. So, but did anybody interact with her? No. At that point, I knew that conversation was going nowhere. So we just went outside to get some assistance for her we used our insurance to get some assistance for her, just for those social skills. We were being the typical paranoid parents, and she was fine. You know, she had a few sessions of group therapy, and she was fine. But the fact that she wasn't even seeing my concerns and she was telling me about my kid's abilities on the monkey bars concerned me, you know? That's not what I was asking you, if she can climb like a monkey. I already know she can do that. It's, is she interacting with other kids? Okay? So know that you're not always going to get everybody. Wet blankets, snipers, complainers. We all know complainers. Lots of complainers. What are you raising your hand?
Complainer.
You're a complainer. No. So try not to, we can complain. We're going to complain about things. Don't complain to your school. Try not to. It's hard because if you're a known diagnosed complainer, right? So I mean, it's harder when you know that's who you are to not do it. Accept it as a challenge. Communicating with the school. So like I said, are any of you familiar with where your elementary school will be if they place them in your neighborhood? So some of those schools have a lot of buses, some are walk-up only. So at my school, we always stood outside with other parents and the teachers and stuff at the end of the day. Couple of things. Don't do mini IEPs every time you see your teacher. You know, just ask her how her day was. Don't always say, so how is she doing towards this goal? Because that becomes annoying, and then they're avoiding you. Oh, there she is, I gotta walk over here. Because they don't want to have those mini IEPs. If you talk to other parents who have kids under an IEP, don't share what you have. Because they might go and use you as leverage to get what they want. Well, Jimmy Bob's mom said that he gets X, Y, and Z. Shouldn't I get X, Y, and Z? Don't complain about staff to other parents or other staff either. It always will come back to bite you. People like to talk. So why do we communicate with the school? Well, we're requesting information or action. We're giving information. We are declining a request. We're building relationships to identify and solve problems, to clarify decisions, and to motivate people. If you are not sure if someone on your team or someone that's in charge of a goal is doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, send a simple email. Hey, how's it going? Is there anything I can be doing at home for this goal? Oh, what? I've been on maternity leave for 6 weeks. I'm not even doing this. Sometimes that's what you find out. Ask your kiddos. Hey, did you see Mrs. Jones today? Who? Find out, because they're your only in to find out what's going on at school. Someone also asked at the break, should I go into my kid's school and volunteer? What do you guys think? Absolutely. Yes. Do it. Just don't go in and have a mini IEP with the teacher while you're supposed to be, reading to the students. But definitely become involved as much as you can. Writing emails. So emails are legal documents that would be submitted into a court of law. If it was an email, it's just the same as writing and signing a letter. So watch what you say in email. Also, make sure, if you're frustrated, this happens all the time. I read an email from someone, I'm really mad, so I'm going to share with my best friend what just happened in that email, and I accidentally reply to that email. You've got to be very careful. When you are writing an email and you're angry, don't have the 2-column filled out at all. That way you won't accidentally send it to the wrong person. Anybody ever have that happen? I did. I almost threw up on my computer. Yeah, luckily I wasn't too bad, but it was bad enough to be uncomfortable. And I had to suck it up because I was in the wrong to do that. Okay, so that looks like my cat Pablo, right, Andrea? That's what Pablo looks like. And then that's the little guy or a little girl. We tried to find a baby that looked like either. And then there's a pretty fish in the middle. So we're going to talk about views. Oftentimes, a school has different views on the child than we do. So what do you think the cat is thinking in this situation? Lunch. I get to eat this fish. But what do you think about the little boy or little girl? What do you think they're thinking? Water, it's pretty. Woo, I'm going to go play with the fish. Do they have the same view of this fish? Not at all. Sometimes that's what happens. Your view of your child is completely off base with the view that the school has. You need to come to agreement if that's the situation, but it happens a lot. So the different views, lack of information. Another story, I had a client that I was working with. The child is deaf, hard of hearing. Child is wielding scissors at school and they are threatening expulsion. The parent calls and says, well, you know, I did just get this diagnosis of bipolar, but she's already labeled. I really don't want to let them know about it. Is that lack of information to the school? Is that fair to the school? It's not fair to the kiddo either. I finally talked her into sending it. Now she has a behavior plan and she's doing so much better. But that happened because we have this stigma that we can't label our children. Well, if they have bipolar, they're labeled, you need to let the school know. It is okay. Lack of options. They don't have a program. That's it. There's hidden issues. Feeling devalued. No one cares what you have to say. They don't trust what you have to say. They don't believe what you have to say. Poor communication and intimidation, and loss of trust. When a factor that may lead to crisis, when the school makes a unilateral decision, they know where they're placing your child before you even walk in that room, and there's nothing you can say or do to change their mind. That's going to be crisis to you guys. You're going to have to hit the books. That's usually when you make a phone call to someone like me to help you with the first steps of that. The school ignores information from others. You have an outside private therapist do an evaluation on your child, and they take it and they say, oh, thanks, and put it under the pile. How would that make you feel? Because you just paid $450 for that evaluation and they just put it under the pile. And it has valuable information about your child. So that would really cause crisis. If the decision or action may harm the child. As a parent, if I had a situation that would harm the child, my child would not be there until they rectified it. Okay? Control your emotions. Try not to scream. Try not to yell. Try to make friends in there. It's going to impact your child. I believe that teachers do their job because they love to teach. Some may be frustrated with what's going on within their own district, but if you have a good relationship with that teacher, they will go to bat for you. I've experienced it. Tips on controlling your emotions. Keep them in check. In the Wright's Law book, he talks about an emotional backpack. And he says, take all of those things that make you mad, make you sad, make you so aggravated you want to spit, and put them in that backpack and help them to fuel you forward. Go in there like the professional that you are so that you can use all of that anger and frustration to peacefully get what your child needs. Be careful about revealing your emotions and thoughts to personnel. Don't say, oh, Mrs. Bradley made me really upset, because that person may be good friends with Mrs. Bradley. And you don't want Mrs. Bradley to know that, okay? Plan your time thinking, planning, and preparing, not throwing adult temper tantrums. Your binder. So everyone should go home and get a binder. In that binder have tabs for each of the therapies or physicians or whatever that you need. So mine, for instance, was the IEP or IFSP tab, the speech language pathology, occupational therapy, her audiologist, and her medical. And so I had a tab for each of those, and every time I got a new document, I would take the old one out and put the new one in. Keep it current. Get one with one of those clear plastic sleeves so you can put a picture of your child in the front and show it to them. Show, this is my child, because chances are at that initial one, not everybody at the team has met the child. Only those who did the evaluations, if they did them. And a lot of times they'll accept the ones that are done in early intervention. So really no one has met them, okay? Keep in mind, the more familiar you are with the law and how to find what you need in the law, the better off you are going to be. So I gave you some very important websites today. That education, the idea.gov, idea.ed.gov. That one is a very important website for you guys to be familiar with. And the isbe.net, that's your State Board of Ed. Keep calm, the best is yet to come. It all goes by so fast. You guys won't believe it, but it does. Here are some websites that you should have at your fingertips. You're going to have them on the CD. Any questions? Do you guys feel a little more well-equipped now to deal with your schools? Have a basic understanding of the law? Hopefully you do. There's my contact information at the end. Don't feel you are bothering me. If you don't bother me, then I lose my job because then I'm not doing that part of it. So please do call me. No question is a dumb question except that one that's not asked.